Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2016. My name is Sarah Schneider, and I'm conducting an oral history interview with Manny, Agon, Kresky of the Orlando Gay Chorus. The interview is being conducted at the UCF Center for Emerging Media in Orlando, Florida. So thank you for being here today. And can you start off by telling us your name, please?
Sure. My full name is Emmanuel J. Agon Kresky.
Thank you. And to start off, can you tell us where were you born and how long have you lived in Orlando?
I was born in South Florida. I was born in Hollywood, Florida. My parents lived in Dania Beach. Grew up in South Florida and went to college in DC. After college, moved back to South Florida and then moved to Orlando in maybe 1998 or so, 1998 or 1999.
Okay. And how long have you been a part of the Orlando Gay Chorus?
Since early 2000s, so maybe like 2003. I'd have to double check, but I think around 2002, 2003.
And what brought you to join the chorus?
Let's see. I had sung with Ken Light, the Ken Light processional over at Epcot. I sang with the cast choir there. And after performing with Disney, I kind of wanted to continue singing after the holidays. And I had attended one or two OGC concerts, and I auditioned after maybe the second time seeing them perform.
And can you tell us about some of your favorite productions or performances you've had?
Sure. So the holiday concerts are always the most popular ones, the ones that people get most excited about. I think my personal favorite was the one that had the format of a radio show. And so there was an MC, and it was like a broadcasted concert. It was like it was more structured. It was a more structured concert. Another one that sticks out in my mind was one of the earlier ones, and it was called From Sissies to Superstars, and it told the story of Oliver Button. I think that was his name, Oliver Button, and it told a story of a kid who was a little different, and how he navigated through some challenges in his life.
And have you participated in the gala events?
Yes, I didn't go, for whatever reason, I did not go to the ones that were actually closer to home. So there was one in Tampa and there was one in Miami. I didn't go to those. My first gala festival was in Denver in 2012, and we returned this year to Denver for the 2016 festival.
So you've been there twice for gala events?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Even though I had been in the chorus for longer, for whatever reason, I did not join the rest of the chorus members by going to the festival up until 2012.
And what has your experience at the gala events been like? Can you tell me a little bit more about what that event is like?
2012 and 2016 were very different, and a big part of that was because of Pulse. It was just a very, it was affirming, it was humbling. There were just a lot of random people who'd come up to us, and because they knew that we were from Orlando, they would give us words of encouragement, they would hug us, they would thank us for coming. It was just very, very humbling. 2012, being that it was my first gala, was a different experience where it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my first year coming. I don't know why I didn't go to the one in Tampa. I don't know why I didn't go to the one in Miami. We did a great set. It was just very uplifting to be surrounded by so many like-minded people. And in 2012, it was just a more joyous, celebratory kind of feel to it. It was also when I started dating Nick, so that will always have a very important piece of my heart. 2012, but yeah, two very different experiences. Both great experiences, just very different.
And so getting to Pulse, can you tell us how you first heard about what happened?
Yeah, so I guess it was Sunday morning. Nick, my husband, had already gone to work at Universal. We were having some work done upstairs in our house, so we were sleeping downstairs. For whatever reason, I checked my iPhone from work. I don't always do that on the weekends, but for whatever reason I did. I hope my boss isn't watching this because I check my iPhone all the time on the weekends. For whatever reason, I scrolled through my messages, and I work for an online travel agency, and there was a message from one of our operational departments mentioning there was an incident, and they were trying to ascertain whether or not any of the travelers that booked through our website were impacted by it. And so this was before we knew the extent of it. We knew that there was a shooting. We didn't know how many people were injured, how many people were dead. And then so I read it. I didn't, again, not knowing that it was a terrorist or somebody who was mentally disturbed. I knew that the operations people were looking into it. I didn't think that anyone that I knew would have been at the club at the time of the day or time of the night. And then so I think I sent out a few emails to my hotel partner saying, hey, I heard there was a shooting, I hope all of our guests are okay. And then I didn't really put that much thought into it. Later that same morning, I started getting texts and Facebook messages from my friends outside of Florida asking if I was all right, and wishing that I was safe, and telling them that they hope I'm doing well, and just kind of like awestruck. It's like, why is this happening? Why are people reaching out? Again, not knowing the extent of how many people lost their lives, how many people were injured at Pulse. I grew up in South Florida, went to school in DC, so sad to say shootings were not unheard of. And so again, not realizing the extent of the damage that was done to the patrons that were there, to the community, just mind-boggling. And then, I started watching the news. It's hard to go back to sleep, right? So you watch the news, and then just got the TV on, and then, more messages about what's going on. And I think I had to work that day, so we were hearing about, I think one of the West Coast cities was having their Pride event, and there might have been some hubbub about somebody going to one of their Pride events with maybe ammunition, with guns in their car, wondering what the extent of this attack was going to be. Again, at this time, I don't think we knew that much information. I don't think we knew who the perpetrator was on Sunday afternoon. So just very, it was just not anything that I could relate to. Like 9/11, like I was born. I mean, I was alive during 9/11, but it was much more remote, right? And this one hit a lot closer to home, because while I don't think I knew anyone there that night, I knew that the other people did.
And so, can you tell me a little bit about the Orlando Gay Course's response in the days and weeks following the shooting?
Yeah, so Kara Studer and JD Casto were just on top of everything. So there were many requests for us to perform at various events. It was, there were so many. It was almost impossible if you had a job or other commitments that you could actually make every event, because the chorus was pretty much in high demand, and some were more uplifting than others, right? So there were the ones like Corey's outside of Publix was hard because it was unlike some of the other ones where we were trying to raise awareness or create a sense of community or strengthen the sense of community or raise money or something like that. It was like, we're at somebody's memorial service. Quite sobering for that. So there was Corey's event. There was a prayer vigil at the cathedral that we go to, the Episcopal Cathedral that we go to, St. Luke's. We went to that. There were 2 events over at the Dr. Phillips Center. One that was put on by the local arts community, and one that was actually the Broadway folks. They came down from New York for a fundraiser. More recently, there was a vigil actually at Pulse, and some of the survivors were invited, and it was the first time back at Pulse for many of them. And up until that time, nobody could go through the fence. But that night that we were there, they opened up the fence, and we actually sang inside the fence.
What were you feeling and thinking as that was going on? What was the atmosphere like at that one you just described?
And what can you feel? I mean, it's. I guess the only thing I could equate it to would be if you're going to a place of worship, and regardless of whether it's your church or somebody else's church or synagogue, you just know to be respectful, and then you talk in hushed tones, and you can smile at your friends, but it's not necessarily a time to be joyous per se or happy per se. It was they had murals on the wall. They had I don't think it was a permanent mural. It was more like a canvas or paper. I'm not sure exactly what the material was, but people were saying their goodbyes, writing down the names of their loved ones. And we were honored to be there, but it was very, I don't know if sobering is the word. It's kind of, I hope your other interviewees are much more articulate than I am. It was, we were honored to be there. We were honored to be there, and we sang True Colors, which is fitting for the event. Another one that we didn't sing that night, but You'll Never Walk Alone. Those seem to be the 2 most requested songs, or the ones that we seem to be the most appropriate for the type of event. So.
And do you have any other moments in those vigils or memorial services that stand out to you, or things about them that you think you'd like to share?
the the church that we go to, the cathedral, St. Luke's Cathedral, did a wonderful wonderful job of, and I think there was media there, so there might be a tape or something of it of that night, but it was they had one candle on the altar for each and every single victim. It had 49 candles. Each candle was different. No two candles were alike. It was very nice. It was very it was something that only like the cathedral could do, because there was a sense of kind of pageantry to it, but so tasteful and so respectful, and just I felt that it was the right the right feel to it, if it makes sense. Later that night, after we cleared out the cathedral, that they had a vigil on Lake Eola. So this might have been a week, the Sunday after Pulse, right? A week after. The vigil at Dr. Phillips on the lawn, the day after Pulse, I was not able to make it because I had to work. Nick went, but I wasn't able to make it. So for me, that was like the big, massive gathering event where you could actually, after leaving the cathedral, we walked over to Lake Eola, which is just maybe a block away, and then you could see the entire border of the lake was surrounded with people with candles. It was just very nice to see that many people come together, whether it was the LGBT community, whether it was the Latinx community coming together, whether it was just people who wanted to put an end to gun violence. It was just really nice to see the city coming together. That probably stuck out the most. Another one, actually that sticks out, not a visual, much more joyous, was actually Orlando City Soccer. Like, I never thought I enjoyed soccer until we were invited to sing at the halftime show. And they had the entire stadium decked out in a rainbow. So there was one section that was red, next one was orange, all the way around. And they had 49 seats up in the bleachers left empty for the victims of the shooting, and there was a candle, or not candle, but a balloon on each of the seats to commemorate them. And you could see those balloons from anywhere in the stadium. It was just very nice to see. I think it was 49 minutes into the game, they actually stopped the game for a moment of silence. So, never was interested in soccer before. And it's like, wow, I really like soccer now, and I really like this team, because I think that was the first major sports event after the Pulse shooting. I think it was the Saturday after Pulse that they did that, and they had their game.
And what did you think about singing in the stadium? What did that feel like, the actual performance element?
From a technical standpoint, there was some learnings. There was I guess there's a delay, so I don't know how we sounded. The people who was also on TV said that we sounded good. It was very welcoming. I've never necessarily been the victim of a hate crime. I don't believe that I've been discriminated before in the past because of my sexual orientation as an adult. And in Orlando, I don't really expect that anyway. But these soccer fans seemed very, very welcoming. And there were just so many rainbow flags that night at the soccer stadium. You would have thought it was a pride event. It was just very uplifting, very affirming, very welcoming. Right?
And what did you think about the reaction of the community, the local community, to what had happened? You touched on this a little bit already, but is there anything else you had thought or felt in the community in response to the community's reaction?
It's unfortunate it takes something like this to actually bring people together. But in a sense, that's what happened. People came together, and I think the people at work kind of gave me my space, because I was going through all sorts of emotions. I think every day for a week I cried at some point, listening to the radio, watching TV, talking to somebody. I would tear up inevitably in the car on my way to work, and occasionally I'll watch a clip or something on YouTube and I'll start tearing up. And people would just say, "Hey, if you need somebody to talk to, I'll be here." The week following the incident, I reached out. While I didn't take any time off, I just continued going to work, but I have some gay partners. I work for an online travel agency, so we have partners that work in hotels, and I reached out to all my gay friends that worked in hotels, and then just to meet with them one-on-one for lunch. Because you never know when somebody's not going to be there anymore. So it was a nice time to reconnect and kind of reconnect, and then kind of like process together. And thank God for Nick, because we had each other to try to make sense of it all. Not that we did make sense of it, but we had each other to lean on, which I was very grateful for.
And what did you think about reactions to the Paul shooting from people outside of the local community? So either nationally or even internationally. Did you feel any of that or think about that?
Yeah, I think when I would tear up in the car or watching TV or YouTube, it wasn't really tears of sadness. I think it was just feeling the love from the other cities. Seeing pictures of the White House decked out in rainbow colors, the Sydney Opera House, all these landmarks, and seeing the messages from the people around the world sending their love to Orlando. I work for Expedia, that's the online travel agency. I'm not sure if you have to edit that out, but the other Expedia offices sent us, "We love Orlando" signs, and they took a picture of their team holding up rainbow flags, and banners, and stuff like that. It's quite unfortunate that after Pulse, we were doing the same thing for the offices in France, and I think there was a few with gun violence and terrorist attacks in Europe that we did the same for them, right? Because you never think it's going to happen to your own city, right? There was New York, there was Boston. We might be a big-ish city, but we're not on the same par as the size of those cities, right? So you don't think that we would be a target for a terrorist attack. But yeah, oh my God, and talking about the festival gala, just the love that we got from there, from our fellow choruses from around the world. They had these huge banners. We are with you, Orlando. We are Orlando. Just like huge banners. I think one's at the History Center, but probably, I don't know. It seems like the length of this room out there in the Anna room, in the foyer area. Just lots of love from the other cities.
And what else did you I know you talked about how different 2012 and 2016 were at the gala events, but can you say more about what the 2016 event was like and yeah, how Pulse impacted?
Yeah,
that
so
experience?
we had gone into rehearsals with a totally different set, and Nick is actually probably a little better versed at talking about what we actually intended to sing originally before Pulse. After Pulse, it's like, okay, this set is not fitting anymore. We need to have a new set, and we came up with a new set. So, True Colors again. It was probably the song that we sung most often at the events, and then we ended with "You'll Never Walk Alone," and I hope there's I know there is on YouTube our director speaking to the audience, packed audience. When we performed, there were people who tried to get in that couldn't. Everyone wanted to see Orlando, from what they tell us. But there was he spoke about what it was like waking up that morning. Similar experience. Like, why are these people contacting me? Why am I getting all these texts? Why am I getting all these Facebook messages? And we were just a mess. The chorus members were just like trying to hold it together. We had gotten through almost every song. We knew that "You'll Never Walk Alone" was going to be the next song, and it was very hard to get through his introduction of that song. And then when we sang, he had invited the entire audience to sing along with us, because there was no way we were getting through that song without crying if we weren't already crying. And then we ended on a different song after that to kind of show people that, Pulse is not, I think Mayor Dyer said that Pulse is not going to define us. We weren't going to end on a sad song, right? "You'll Never Walk Alone" can be a little solitary. It's a little melancholy. So we ended up with "We Are Family." And then we had pink boas and pink glasses and little things in our hair, and it was just a fun number to end on. But yeah, I think that was, they said that our set was the set that everyone was trying to get into, to see. And then the other choruses, actually, many of them made reference to either gun violence or homophobia or something along those lines in their own set. And a lot of times they made mention of it. Now that I think about it. Because while we perform, we also watch other people perform as well.
And was there anything else you wanted to say about the interactions between you and members of the other courses at that event, outside of the performance? Was there anything else you heard from people?
Just a lot of hugs from random people. So I'm not always the most huggy person. So it's like, why are you hugging me? But no, it was, I always appreciate when people say, "Can I hug you?" or "May I hug you?" It's like, sure, I know it's coming. But yeah, there was a lot of people who wanted to welcome us, to thank us for being there. Very affirming.
And I'm curious what the Pulse as a place, if it meant anything to you as a place before what happened, and if now it has any significance in your mind as a location and site.
Yeah, so I am acquainted with one of the old managers there, with Ron Legler. I met him through Florida Theatrical Association, and so he moved to Baltimore a little while ago. I don't know that I've been to Pulse since he left Orlando. So for me, I've been a few times, usually as his guest. It's not a place where I've frequented. It was not my place was actually Parliament House nowadays, but back when I was younger, we used to go to Pleasure Island on Thursdays. So it was usually in my late 20s, it was Pleasure Island on Thursday, then Southern Nights on Friday, and then Saturday night Parliament House. On those rare occasions that I went out every single night of the weekend. I don't do that anymore. Now it's like maybe once a month there's a show over at Parliament House we want to see, we'll go to Parliament House. So Pulse kind of opened up kind of as I was coming off of that go out every weekend kind of phase of my life. But Ron's partner, Andrew Springer, had his birthday party there, so there was a reason to go to Pulse, right? So there was a birthday party. If there were friends who were coming in from out of town, they would make a Pulse. I think some of the stuff that the newscaster said after Pulse could be true for any of the gay clubs. That it was a safe place. That for many in the community, it was their place of worship, if you will. I thought that was a strange term to use, but I know that a number of people have used gay clubs in general as their place of worship, as their church. So I appreciate it for that aspect of it, while it wasn't necessarily my place of worship. I do respect it for being a safe place where people can gather, where people would feel safe, where people can be themselves, right? Yeah. And now that I'm older, it's like, I don't know that I can stay up past midnight. So had I been out, I think I would have been in bed way before 1:45 at that point. But if it was, as you think about how, if it wasn't Pulse, and if it was Parliament House, and if it wasn't 1:45, but it was 12 midnight or something like that, it could have been any one of us, right? You never know.
You mentioned briefly Facebook and things like that, people contacting you after it happened. Did you see social media playing any or any part in the time following the shooting and people's response to the shooting? Or did you feel like that wasn't really a big part of people's reactions?
Before Pulse, I never knew that there was a feature on Facebook to mark yourself safe. And while I was appreciative of that, so I can see which of my friends were safe, I was like, oh my God, why is this even necessary? Or what kind of world do we live in that this is necessary, that they built this? I don't know. I would like to think that, for the most part, Facebook is neutral. And so I don't know that they did anything to either promote awareness about Pulse or downplay it. Obviously, so much of what we see on Facebook is just who we decide to follow on Facebook. So lots of posts from lots of posts about from other cities wishing us well, from other gay choruses wishing us well. Lots of that stuff, which was quite uplifting. There were the pictures of the outside of Pulse as people are driving by. I never visited either the hospital or Pulse while the memorials were up, before the Regional History Center started protecting the the stuff left behind. But there was many pictures of the memorials that were laid out, and they were laying stuff out on the lawn too of Dr. Phillips. So there's so many pictures of that on Facebook as well. It was helpful to find out, to promote certain things, like the local arts organizations did the Beautiful Together event over at Dr. Phillips, so there was lots of, we're trying to promote the event, and then so, we're sharing stuff on Facebook. I don't know how much they could share for Broadway with Love, because I think that the event sold out almost immediately. But there were lots of mention about who's coming to the event and who confirmed, and during the event and after the event, lots of pictures of the celebrities interacting with the locals, which was nice to see. Yeah, but for the most part, I like to think that Facebook is pretty neutral, and then it's just a tool that we use, and that where we see who we choose to see and who we choose to follow on Facebook.
Do you have any thoughts about the long-term impact of Pulse and the shooting? Whether the impact, let me ask that question again. What would you think the long-term consequences of the shooting might be for the Orlando gay community and for the larger city of Orlando?
Gun control reform, I think, would be a big one. The perpetrator wasn't from Orlando. He came from outside of Orlando. So I think that just educating people, I think, would help. But then, we wonder, like, okay, do we need to go outside of Orlando to educate people there? When somebody shoots somebody, like, in any mass shooting, it's like, what the heck's going through their mind? Like, where did this come from? Where did this hate come from? Where did this ignorance come from? And we can't always dictate how people think. I don't think we should dictate what people think, but I think that we can put laws in place that prevent massive harm through assault rifles, through guns, through gun violence, whatever. I think they go hand in hand. I think we need more. I think we need gun control that makes sense. I think we need to reform some of the stuff that we have out there. But at the same time, I think we need to continue to educate. Part of our mission statement for the Orlando Gay Chorus is about changing people's hearts and people's minds, and I think that we need to continue doing that so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Do you have any other reflections about the Pulse shooting or about your involvement in the Orlando Gay Chorus, or anything else you'd like to talk about?
I'm appreciative of you being given the opportunity to do this. The chorus has been, it's a family. It can be dysfunctional. We don't always get along. There's sibling rivalry. But we're lucky in the sense that we had family to fall back on. And we had our own support group. I don't know how many other people have that luxury, right? That have the ability to seek the support of someone as easily as we had it. We're able to be there for each other, and we're definitely very appreciative of that. Yeah. So this would have been totally different if it wasn't for the chorus, I think, and if it wasn't for Nick.
Well, is there anything else we didn't talk about that you'd like to share?
I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as you turn off the camera, but right now, no. I think I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for participating and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.